Good evening. I'd like to call to order the special town council meeting for July 7. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mike Aurelio,
Here.
Brian Blazak,
Present.
Wayne Pondinas,
Present.
Michael Schilling, absent, Gerald Swets,
Present.
David Westland, and Beth Hernandez by way of Kathy Belicki.
And our town manager.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris Salatas.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. Public comment, I see no one there, so we will move right on to new business. 5A is Ordinance 1737, which is an ordinance establishing the policy by which town boards and commissions may participate by electronic means of communication. Mr. Westland.
So this ordinance was a little bit more, we talked about it at the June meeting, and it was probably more imminent that it be passed quickly, because the conventional wisdom, at least at the end of June, is that the public emergency that the governor had put in place for the last 14 or 15 months was going to end, and there was some concern that it wouldn't continue, but it has been extended to the end of July. What this ordinance does is that the reason you're allowed to have Zoom meetings now is because of the public emergency. Once the public emergency ends, you need to prior to this pandemic, you weren't allowed to do anything virtually, but the legislature passed a law in April that said, all right, once the public emergency ends, under certain parameters, a limited amount of board members or councilmen can appear virtually. And what this ordinance does is it kind of tracks the law in terms of the types of reasons and things that you can appear virtually and things you cannot appear virtually for. For instance, an employment decision, adopting a budget, reducing personnel, exercising the power of eminent domain, imposing a tax, those are things that a person cannot appear virtually for. Absent those things, a councilman or a board member could appear virtually after the pandemic is over under certain circumstances. Number one, at least half of the board would have to be present in person. So it's not a situation where all 5 councilmen or all board members could say, oh, we're going to do this completely virtually. You need at least half. So 3 of you are going to have to be here in person no matter what. Second thing is that if you're going to appear virtually and you want to vote on an issue, you have to be able to be seen and heard. So a lot of times folks, and I've been guilty of this as well, where you just have your name across or a picture, that doesn't work anymore either. It's going to be that you're seen and heard by both the people in attendance as well as anyone else who's appearing virtually. And of course, if that virtual option is going to be available, then members of the public also have to be able to appear virtually. And I think the final thing is that there's some limitation on the amount of times that you can exercise your privilege of appearing virtually. It's generally limited to 50% of the meetings. If you have 2 meetings in a row that you appear virtually, the next one you have to appear in person. So it talks about like a group of meetings, and so if there's 2 and then the next one you'd be in person, then you can go back to virtual. But in a calendar year, 50% of the meetings you'd have to make in person, absent a showing of illness, military service, death of a relative, or an emergency involving actual or threatened injury to persons or property. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I suppose it's like obscenity. We'll know it when we see it. So I know from State Representative Andrade, who was one of the big people who pushed this, that the idea is that they didn't want like a snowbird to like leave in November and do all the meetings virtually from like November to March, right? Like they want, so they put in some parameters that the strong preference is in person and physically present at a meeting, but in certain circumstances, you're able to appear virtually. And that's what the ordinance does. I'm happy to, that's kind of the I was going to say 2-minute, but about 5-minute overview. There's a lot kind of packed into it. But the idea is appear in person if you can. And as a last ditch thing, you could appear virtually.
Okay, any questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance number 1737. Is this just on the first reading here? Is this all we're doing?
So you could, that's your option.
We can
You have
just
4
accept it.
members here. You need unanimous consent of everybody that's here to consider it and adopt it tonight. And then you need 4 votes
Okay,
to
so I'll
pass
make
it.
a...
So you have 4. So if anyone wants to move it over to the next meeting, you certainly could do that because the public emergency's got you covered through July and you have another meeting in July.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1737, an ordinance establishing the policy by which members of town boards and commissions may participate by electronic means of communication as submitted here.
So it's a motion to consider ordinance 1737 on first reading. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved 4-0. And so then do I have a motion to adopt 1737 on first reading?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there support for that?
Second. Support.
Thank you, Wayne. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is also approved 4-0.
Can I just add one thing, just because you just reminded me with the roll, or with the all in favor? If somebody appears virtually, and this is more for Beth, it has to be a roll call vote.
Yeah.
So,
I saw that on the ordinance, so.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, 5B is to consider appointing members to the Impact Fee Review Board. Mr. Blazak.
Okay, this is the last step on the road impact fee, which goes into effect the 13th of July. And by law, we need 3 individuals, one being certified public accountant, one being a certified Indiana engineer, and one being a certified Indiana realtor. So therefore, we went to the state of Indiana and got their lists of individuals. They must be residents of St. John. So we went to the state and got lists of individuals eligible living in this town of St. John to be nominated for our committee. And I propose to nominate Matt Dudzik, who's the certified public accountant, Scott Zajac, who's the certified engineer, and Tony Minadero, who is the certified real estate agent. And Tony, by the way, is both, I believe, certified in Illinois and in Indiana. So those are my proposals.
Okay, is there support for that?
I'll second that.
Questions or comments? Then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved 4-0. Item C, consider an amendment to the agreement with Arch Group for supplemental work for the St. John Road Impact Fee Program. Mr. Salatas, you did some work on this?
Yes, this has been a focus of mine since our last council meeting. As you may remember, we held off. At that time, it was 4 points from the Arch Group's supplemental agreement because there was a concern about cost as well as how necessary they were. In working with Clerk Treasurer Beth Hernandez's office, IT Director Jason Dravitt, and Planning Commission Attorney Adam Decker. We managed to cut that down to just 3 items. So as you'll see in your packet here, there's item 4, code update, item 5, coordination review meetings, and 7, technical assistance. It's now going to total $7,240 for the last remaining bit. So from the original proposal that we saw at your last council meeting of $54,980, we cut that down to $37,150, which is a savings of $17,830. Which is about 32% of the overall contract. And we will be ready for this to hit on July 13th. And so now we're requesting that you approve the last 3 items as shown in your packet here.
Questions, comments? Okay, then I would like to entertain a motion to approve the amended agreement with Arts Group, adding items 4, 5, and 7, and then authorize the town manager to sign.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there support for that?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved 4-0. Reports and correspondence. Wayne, anything?
The water main project between 101st and 101st is going to be set up for Monday for mobilization. And that's to replace 700 foot of water main. Grimmer was awarded the contract, so that's going to take place soon, and hopefully that gets done. Nothing else.
Okay. Brian,
I'm all in for tonight.
Mike?
Nothing.
Okay. Other than thanking everyone who was involved in the July 3rd fireworks. It was an awesome display. It was awesome organization by those involved. I'll defer to Chris on maybe going over a little bit of the details, but that's really all I have. So, anything from the clerk treasurer's office?
No, nothing today.
Thank you. Chris?
So as you said, with the fireworks, went over well. It was pretty well attended. We did not have to use any of the overflow parking, which was great because that allowed for residents to kind of spread out and distance themselves while they enjoyed the fireworks. Staff handled it very well. We had the parking lot cleared out in less than 15 minutes. As I'm sure a lot of you saw on Facebook, we got a lot of good comments about the fireworks show itself being better than some of the surrounding community shows, as well as the speediness of our clearing out of the parking lot. Everything went off safely. We got the property cleared out and cleaned. We're looking forward to doing it next year and hopefully making a bigger event. We'll be getting some of the costs coming in from overtime for employees, as well as some supplies we had to buy to help organize the event, and we'll be getting that to you guys shortly. So all the departments are well aware that they did a great job, and we're very, very thankful for all their people who kind of came very short notice to make it a great success. As far as other events or other updates, Wayne touched on the water update, which we'll have, and we'll be looking at kind of starting some budget prep coming up, and then we'll also be working on CCMG, Community Crossroads Grant. So we want to be able to make that application as soon as possible, since those funds are kind of first come, first serve. And then also, as at your last town council meeting, you applied for the SWIFT grant, which is for your water infrastructure. So we're making sure we're staying on top of that, and we'll be submitting that shortly as well. So everything seems to be on track right now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I have one other item, Jerry. I think there's a slight delay on Joliet for the widening of the road. There was a conflict with a sewer, so everybody that's watching, they won't be working on Joliet this week. It'll start up again on Monday, by what I understand.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Mr.
Jerry,
Weston?
I'd like to just echo on Chris's comments. I was present with him, and we have to compliment all the departments: fire, police, public works,
Mark?
park department. All the employees and everybody did a really spectacular job. So they need to be complimented again.
Okay,
I agree.
so it is done. Mr. Westland,
I don't have any.
you have nothing. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian.
Second.
Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.